you?
Good.
Mr. Scott, how are you?
Thank you. Positive.
Ms. Davis, how are you? Good to see you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hallheimer, good to see you.
I sure do. Forget about you. You like this person.
Yes, I am.
All right. Sure.
What's up?
We can go ahead and start the work session. I would just want to remind all the presenters and the board members to make sure you speak right into the microphone so that people can hear. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Geneva Adams. I'm the principal at the Elkhart High School Freshman Division. And before you, you have a handout that is the Freshman Division tentative schedule for 2022-2023 school year. This is a proposed schedule for a delayed start for Monday for the school year. In order for us to have instructional time to actually collaborate with our teachers and for our students to have success. So this time is really embedded into the contractual day for teachers in order to best service our students so that they can have success in moving forward. Currently, our current schedule does not allow that time for this to occur. So what we're working with is we would love to have the same similar schedule as the 10-12 building, but with our number of staff members that we have and our students not driving and that piece, it just is not possible. So I would need staff to be there every day, never miss a day, and for that to effectively work, and that did not happen. So we tried to do that piece last year, but it was not successful in us being able to have collaboration time in order to implement our Tier 2 interventions with our students to make sure that they understand and they're proficient in their standards and getting all of the understanding that they need instructionally. So what we have prepared, what I've prepared is I have had meetings with transportation, food services, all those that could have a big think tank meeting, work at different things to make this work. And this is what we could come up with. This plan does not cause for any loss of instructional time, nor does it cause for any loss of any type of issue with our students being able to be serviced. Transportation is able to provide a delayed start time and get our students there at 9:30 in the morning, and we would have that 20 minutes. That's why class would start at 9:55. So we have breakfast still for our students every day. So breakfast, 20 minutes for their breakfast like they would have every day. And we have lunchtime as the same, that piece. We want to make sure that everybody is serviced and we are able to meet our benchmarks for our school improvement plan. At this point, if we don't have that in time embedded into that school day in the contractual time, we will not be able to be successfully able to meet the benchmark for our school improvement plan for students to have success academically. We just don't have the time to meet to actually have effective Tier 2 interventions to actually move the strategies, discuss how it looks best for our students academically and getting them to that point. So we chose Monday because Monday on our day block schedule splits the days every week. So blue and gold days, there would be no loss of instructional time for that. So everybody has that equitable classroom time, instructional time, that piece for whatever week it is, and for whatever class that it may be. We require every Monday because we want consistency for our students and our families. Like if we try to say, oh, well, every first Monday, that's confusing for parents, that's confusing for students, they're freshman students coming in, it's just a lot for them to transition into. So want to make sure that they're able to actually be consistent and transition as smoothly as they possibly can into the freshman, their high school year. And we have we have an impact class at the end of the day, where that is where it's a credited course that we give them a credit for. We teach them soft skills and that piece, so that's also where we will have our Tier 2 intervention time implemented for the students, so we can implement what we have collaborated about regarding their CFAs, their common formative assessment, that data that you guys are actually looking for from the freshman division. This will be content-specific professional learning community time that will be spent for this every Monday. So our different content departments can actually meet and collaborate about those pieces. Are there any questions at this time?
Is Monday a day that you find most students on? Is that also why you pick Monday, or?
Not necessarily. Like Mondays, I don't know, it's not, but give or take. So Fridays are days that there's a lot of absences that happen, so parents typically take their kids, maybe they're doing an extended weekend or something like that. So Fridays are kind of rough, but for the most part, Monday was purely chosen because it was a consistent day. Like it's a consistent day that it flips off both blue and gold day. And I don't have to worry about one set of classes on a blue day being lack of instructional time. We can even it out accordingly. So there's no concern with that. So Mondays are blue and gold weeks is what we say. So the first Monday of the school year is gold Monday, so it would be a gold day. That next Monday would be a blue. So it's not like one type of class or one day the classes are losing instruction time. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure. You want to start this in 2 weeks?
Yes, ma'am.
So how do we, like, have we had like a freshman orientation already?
No, freshman orientation will happen on August 8th, and we'll have 2 sessions, one from 1 to 2:30, and we'll have an evening session from 6 to 7:30 p.m. This has not been communicated out because we wanted to present it to you guys first and get your stamp of approval, and working with the communication department. If this is approved, we will get all of this out to ensure awareness for all of our families. Immediately, I have a letter ready to go. If it's approved, to get out to them, put it on Facebook, social media, the website, and all those different pieces so that we're communicating out. And we will do an all call, and we'll also do emails to all of our students and our parents to inform them of this information. But we'd like to get it out sooner rather than later so our parents and families can prepare for that to happen.
So no loss in instructional time, right?
No loss in instructional time. Because we made up by increasing the instructional time for Tuesday through Friday by 5 minutes. So last year we were just at 80-minute classes, and we increased the time by 5 minutes for the rest of the school year. So we were able to balance that out, so we not lose any instructional time.
Is there any questions or comments from the public? All right. Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
And now for the 10 through 12 part. I am Frank Kurtz, Vice Principal on the 10 through 12 campus. My task here tonight is simpler in that we are seeking your approval for a 15-minute earlier departure for our students. We have found that the 8:30 time has helped some of our students as far as arrival and being there and being on time. But we have also found that the 4 o'clock ending time is a long day. And to go in conjunction with all the extracurricular and co-curricular activities we run after school, 15 minutes would certainly help that part of it as well. So for us, it's really simple. With your blessing, we moved advisory to the end of the period, or at the end of the day last year, if you remember. On Mondays, we have our SEL time where we keep students in their advisory and go through our SEL lessons and instruction. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday are flip days for our PLCs for our teachers to be able to get together. And as I said, you guys helped us do that last year, carve out that time when we didn't take any instructional time away, allowed our teachers to be able to have 2 times a week where they were able to get together and do the things that a PLC district needs to do. And so that will continue, that won't change. The only piece of this is that the students will leave 15 minutes early. And just to refresh your memory, on those days that we are flipping the PLCs, we share the students between two teachers. On Tuesday, Thursday, they go with one teacher. On Wednesday, Friday, they go with the other teacher. And all they would do is leave earlier for that day. Also for the students, if you remember, to reward academic success, if they are passing all their classes and they have transportation home, and the advantage that we have that freshmen don't have is that we have a lot of drivers or parents that can pick them up, they will be dismissed and allowed to leave really at the end of the 4th or 8th period of that day. So for us, again, it's really nothing different other than a dismissal of 15 minutes early for our students.
I have a couple comments, and I know that when we went to moving advisory to the end of the day, the premise on that was also to help kids who weren't passing classes, to give them the mentoring, the tutoring, and stuff that they needed to get up to speed, and which I think is great. But I think from what I'm hearing, what the hope was, what the reality was a little different. And from the standpoint of lots of kids that were supposed to be staying weren't staying. No consequences to that. Teachers didn't know who was supposed to be in the building, where they were supposed to be. Kids walking hallways. If they didn't leave, those that were supposed to leave didn't leave. Clubs. There just seems to be a lot of unintended consequences from that particular decision. I'm not sure that if some of those things have been addressed going into this next school year, but I think certain things need to be looked at, and making sure that the kids that are supposed to be in the school for the benefit to help them pass their classes need to be there. And if they're not, we need to find out where they are and why they're not there.
Yes, we have talked about that often during the course of the summer here. It's mainly going to be addressed and enforced with arranging our security staff in a more tactful way, if I could say that. Putting one person on door 1, one person on door 3, one person on door 26, and one person on door 12, we can control with greater accuracy who's in and who's out. What we did with the students' ID is by month they had a different color sticker that allowed them to exit the building. The big problem we have had on that campus, whether it was Elkhart Memorial or Elkhart High School, is there are all kinds of entry and exit points. And that is very difficult. If you compare that to the freshman division, Elkhart Central, you basically had the entry in the beginning, in the front, and then maybe one in the back that they had to really worry about. But it was a little bit easier to enforce. So the other thing that we're stressing to our security team is coming to work is a very important thing, and coming to work every day. And when we are missing one or two, or for whatever reason, then we have strategized with our school of study principals that we've got to cover those exits that way. So that is our plan, not only for advisory period, but really for every period of the day. I know we've already really put a scare in all kinds of school districts all across the country. And since we moved to an open campus, that has been a challenge for us. We have grown into these problems, but I think that we have figured out ways to, address the situations. We have come a long way with student IDs. And the student ID story, I could go on for hours and hours, but we have come a long way with our students understanding they need to wear those. They need to show them on entry to each of our buildings. So that is our plan, and I think hopefully you can come over sometime and see it in action.
This is for you, and Dr. Shepard, I've had many times we've had the conversation about looking at the data on whether or not the time change was a wise decision in the first place. Have you researched that more and decided if we would look at going back to what our times were before we did this?
Dr. Shepard, you need to come to the microphone.
Frank, my whole thing is, I'm glad you're doing that with the IDs. I never really understood why the kids weren't wearing the IDs, so thank you. That's so important.
Sometime you can have that conversation.
My kids came from a school that you couldn't even walk in the front door without an ID on, so I just never, but yeah, that would be great, because, no offense, but in Spectrum, you couldn't make it to that front door if you didn't have your ID on, so I'm glad we're doing that. Because I think that's important for the teachers to know, especially with the pathways, because they're moving back and forth so much.
I need to really share that story.
I would love that, yeah, for sure. So what,
A couple things. First of all, conversations of transportation, the issues of when we can transport, how we can transport are huge. Plus 1 year of data we thought was kind of short, 1 year to study it. So we had another year to look at it, to get at some things, really look at it for speeds and no transfer. We're trying to get used to a new way of doing things.
yeah, and I really do think about the high school, like not just the 15 minutes making a difference, but I think of how many kids really lost the opportunity to work, and their families needed that too, and I just wonder if that was kind of. But,
Well, and again, if they're academically on track, they can leave at 3:11.
Yeah.
What is that minimal threshold for academically?
Passing on courses. Passing on classes. Passing on classes.
Passing all classes with D's?
with
Or-
these,
As long as they're passing, yes, and, you know, you always worry what that threshold is, but for us, especially coming out of the pandemic, it has been a challenge to get them on track, and that was a good place for us to start, to see that, yes, we are rewarding success, and if you come, you show up, you do the work, then you're gonna be given certain privileges that other people will not have.
And how often is it evaluation done?
We do it every month. So every month it changes. If they're passing that class, they start in the advisory period at the beginning of the month, and then that's when they get their new color sticker that allows them to exit the building.
And then to follow up on Ann's questions, are the advisory teachers then given basically a new, list of students that did not meet the requirements that need to be in the class, and do they take into account
Yes.
those students?
We publish every month that list, and then they just have to pull it from their list of students that they have. We roll advisories through where it stays with a certain teacher along the way, so they get to know those kids as well. And one thing I did want to mention, the Tier 2, Tier 3 instruction does happen during that time. It's a little more challenging because, you know, PLCs, Tier 2, Tier 3, we're trying to find the happy medium between those. And so on Tuesday, Thursday, we target certain things. On Wednesday, Friday, we target other things. And so those things are still going to happen. And oftentimes, our students are staying after school or beyond that time normally for those kids that need the help. And the busing is always an issue for us that we got to work out. But we're creative in approach. They'll use time during teacher prep time, study all time. We'll farm them out during that time to get some help. At times, students will be in the back of the classroom while the teacher's instructing, and then when they're freed up to do certain exercises, the teacher will go back and get some Tier 2, Tier 3 work at that point. So we have to be creative just because of the landscape that we have. Every day, I think we got better with our new schedule, our new landscape of teachers and everything. Right now, we're better staff-wise than we've been really in the last 3-4 years that I can remember. So I feel like we got some really good momentum to have success going into next school year.
Athletically, if there were, and it's probably easier with smaller teams, but if there was a team that was all academically eligible to get out at 3:11, could practices start at 4 and maybe instead of 5, and could you manipulate the transportation to account for that?
We're hoping that big bus-wise, yellow bus-wise, we can, if we have enough drivers and if the schedule allows. That's a wait-and-see kind of thing. For the smaller teams, we have the white buses, we have bus drivers that are trained, coaches, and yes, we'll be able to get them out and get them going. Our golf teams,
Right, yeah.
you know, that kind of stuff, yeah, absolutely. We're going to put them on the road and get them going. But the thing that I think is helpful, Northridge has been on this 3:45 dismissal for a while, and they had to learn to live with that athletic and co-curricular piece with that later start time, and they have. And so I think that 15 minutes, while it doesn't seem like a lot, I think it is going to happen in a way that, you know, band practice, things of all that nature will be able to happen with a little bit more palatable for parents, kids, you know, getting home at a more decent hour.
One last question, I think. With students attending the freshman division also play sports to make them JV or varsity level. Is there accommodations made for them should, advisory, they can get out 3:11, could they get out at the same time to then participate in a early practice with us?
Yeah, as we talked, our schedules are more aligned
Right.
with this schedule,
Yeah, 3:05.
which helps us. The eye-opener for us last spring was we had a number of baseball players who were freshmen who were good players. Yeah.
My son, yeah.
And so we had to figure out a way to do that, and I think this will allow us a way to do it even better this next year for those.
We are more aligned this year than we were last year. So last year we just had like 30 minutes where they had more, and our time was quite different than theirs, in the dismissal of their end of their class period. But we worked together and we'll continue to work with athletics, and they had a very organized schedule. We were able to get the students and communicate to the teachers, if they needed to leave early to get to a destination for those different pieces. We had that organized, and we are continuing to work at that. And if you look at the schedule, I do have it predisposed as 3:45. So if I need to change that or whatever, we can, but at this point, that is for the 9th grade as well. The freshman division, along with the 10 through 12, would all be on the same schedule.
And just a quick sidebar, if we have to be creative, we will be. This past spring, second semester, we had those math kids, we had 8 of them, that started the day at the 10-12 campus. And then between myself, Mr. Anderson, Coach Shattuck, and Coach Kelly, we took turns driving the white bus at 10 o'clock to get them back over to campus there. So we're going to do whatever we need to do and figure out a way to do it to accommodate those special kids, those ones that really perform and need those special situations.
I just want to make a quick comment. Last spring, I stopped in at Elkhart High School during the advisory period and went in and talked to 3 classrooms of kids and staff and asked them what they thought about the schedule, how they liked the later starting time and all that kind of stuff. And easily 80% loved coming in later. They're more rested. They feel like they're ready to go to school. They really like that. They are really going to appreciate the extra 15 minutes because they said that 4 o'clock was a bit rough. But, that 3:45 is going to make a difference for a lot of these kids. So, good job.
Yeah, that's kind of the same take we had on it too, coming away from it.
The same 80% didn't like the 4 o'clock.
With the passing periods, your passing periods are like 8 minutes, and I know there's some concern that might be too long for the majority of the building. Has there been any talk of addressing that aspect, maybe shortening those times to get kids into classrooms quicker so they're not in the hallways dawdling or doing what kids do? I know there's a group that has to go back and forth, but those would be, I would say, the minority that could potentially be dealt with, maybe a little grace period for them. Has there been discussion with that?
We are more cross-curricular with our schools of study than we want to be.
Okay.
We could be whole, and that is have an econ teacher for each school of study, then we wouldn't have to have that kind of back and forth. But until we can become that, then we're going to have that struggle. We've gone back and forth about the 8 minutes. We have far too many kids. Getting a second half to the ETI building would help that piece for ETI. But it's right now a situation where we don't have enough teachers for each school of study to keep it whole. When we can get to that point, we'll be much better. We'll be so much more consistent across the board. We'll be truer to our mission, but that's going to be a work in progress with staffing. It will be a work in progress with some of our facilities, but we're going to keep working towards that, and that's the goal. So right now, we're going to stay with the 8 minutes because we have to, and as we can staff things better and keep kids in the same spot, that's what we would like to do.
So last year I talked to Ian, my son, about this. There were 3 days a week. He had a class in the upper southwest corner of the high school building, and his next class was at the school of study in the building, the EACC. And he said, believe me, Dad, I need every one of those 8 minutes because the halls are so filled. just to navigate to get over to my class on time.
No, I can understand that. I think my thought was, you know, the kids that are further away have to do that may need more time, but not every student in the high school needs that time. I think the majority of kids, from what I'm hearing from a lot of staff, is that there's too many kids in the hallway dawdling. Other kids can't get where they need to be. As teachers, you know, we are fine giving some kids that we know are coming from the other side of the building, have to cross the parking lot into another building, a grace period to get there. And I just was wondering if there was a way we could put, they had something on their ID or something that said that they're coming from another place, a sticker or something, so that the teachers know where they're coming from and they'd have that grace period, so we don't have so much congestion and so many kids in the hallways in the main building for as long as we do. That was my only,
I think
that was my only, you
a couple
know,
things.
inquiry about that.
I'm not one for excuses, but coming out of the pandemic, the first half of the year was very difficult. And we had to retrain our kids how to behave again. So that was half of the battle. I will tell you this, as the year went on, it was so much better. The last 9 weeks, I actually had fun again as an administrator because it was fun. And that was a good thing. It's a step in the right direction. So I feel like with that kind of momentum moving forward, we're going to be better. But I also think this was all brand new for us in so many ways. And the first years as it is, some of us have visited Nashville and the academies there. It took them 10 years to get that thing going. You know, now they're a dog and pony show and people come and see them everywhere, but 10 years. I mean, what we've done in 1 year, I think we're way ahead. And the gal that came over from Nashville said, you guys are way ahead of it. So we'll be better next year. We'll be better the year after that. I think some of the things we learned, it was hard to push the envelope with them as kids to understand you have to follow the rules here. We can't coexist without you not following the rules. And once they understood that, then it became so much better. That was that retraining that it was all pandemic. I mean, they just kind of forgot how to do school. So we'll be better. Come on over. I'd like to show you schedules. You'll see how we can pull up any random kid, and you'll see what Rocky's saying there about boom, 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 boom.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, the electives is a piece of that because we have 8 periods. So they have to pick up electives as they go. So, you know, art class is in arts and communication, and that's where they got to go. And music is where music is. So those are all things that are part of our normal that,
Right.
I think looking at each kid, you can see it a little bit better. But we'll keep pushing them.
Is there any comment or questions from the audience? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So board members, the conversations regarding this schedule grew out of a conversation that we had shortly after I'd returned from a meeting with the Coalition of Continuous Improvement Schools that I mentioned in your packet. So we wanted to present this information to you and let you think on that if there's more time that's needed. President Davis just asked if there was action that could be taken. It could be, but if there are considerations or more that we need to discuss regarding this, we can obviously do that. So I didn't put this on the agenda as an item to be voted on, given that it was information that we had just arrived at based on my greater understanding of how our relationship with the CCISD works. So we would have the ability to propose that the freshman division is on a different schedule than the rest of the high school, and propose to them that we would be able to do that delayed start on Monday, basically losing, being a half hour less than the instructional time of 6 hours a day that they're supposed to have. If we do that, then I would propose that to the consortium. The consortium would approve that, and then once it's approved by the consortium, we would be able to do that. So obviously, the sooner you give me that permission, the sooner we can do that. I would reach out to the consortium and say, this is what we want to do. When would it be approved by the consortium? It still may not be approved by the first day of school, given when their meetings would be. So, but I didn't want to rush the process. I want to make sure that you all have time to do what you need to do in considering this. So, if it's something that you feel like you would want to add to the agenda and approve the time and approve that I apply to the consortium, we can do that. If not, we can delay that to the next board meeting and have that conversation then. And then what would be communicated to parents regarding the schedule of the freshman division is that it will start normal every day the same, and then we would provide a change to that once we would have approval to the change in the schedule.
So this consortium, it's the schools who are involved in it that make the decision
Yes.
of whether or not it goes?
By virtue of being in that consortium, it approves the actions of its own body.
Can you explain
Sure.
to everybody
Yeah,
what that is?
Sorry, the Consolidated Consortium the Consortium of Continuous Improvement School Districts was a group that Elkhart Community Schools joined a few years ago that provides school districts flexibility and creativity in doing some things differently. So the state of Indiana requires, in this instance, that a high school attend 6 hours of instruction outside of lunch. So a school day for a high school needs to be 6 hours of instructional time. What would be happening on the days that Ms. Adams described would be that technically it would just be 5.5 hours of instructional time plus a half hour of lunch. And so because that day would be technically shorter than what a legal, quote unquote, school day is, we could actually lose state funding by not having a full 180 instructional days during the course of the year. By being part of this special group, we would be able to apply to that group to say, on Mondays, for the purposes of collaboration and further assistance to our students, can we have this flexibility? That group would vote and approve that, and then by the group voting and approving that, we would then be able to exercise that flexibility.
And there are 11, I'm looking at.
Currently 11 schools.
11 schools, and 2 of them are in our own county, including us.
Yes.
I'm okay with moving forward with this tonight.
I have no issue.
So somebody just needs to make a motion.
We just need to make a motion that we put it on the agenda, and do that.
Motion.
When we use the board meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't do that.
Do it in the regular meeting.
Okay.
Do it at the beginning of the
Okay,
board.
gotcha.
Yep. All right. You had also asked for an update, or board members were curious about an update on the E3 grant that had been received by the school district. So if Greg and Jason and Brandon could come forward and share that with us.
Good evening, I'm Greg Stover from School of Engineering, Technology, Innovation, I'm the principal, Director of Technology Services, and we have Brandon Aiken, Director of the Career Center. What I handed out is, I wanted to make sure I go before Brandon, so if I take longer, it irritates me. So, what I handed out to everybody, or what I passed around, is a summary of the grant that we received. What the 3E grant is a grant that is through ESSER, federal funded ESSER dollars, and it allows us to focus on a pathway and to provide opportunities for students to explore, to engage, and to experience the pathway. And before we wrote the grant, I saw it on the website and I contacted Jason because there were 3 questions that I went through. One was, do we have computer science at all levels of the community, like K through 12 in Elkhart? And that answer was no. We did a quick survey and we didn't have computer science classes at every level. Do we have a computer science implementation plan that maps out computer science opportunities throughout K through 12, and we didn't have one, so we're creating that. And are we leveraging our community partners and other stakeholders in order to have a collective impact on our student outcomes? And I put in parentheses PBL. I did a presentation last year about project-based learning, and that's something that is very important for STEM and also for career technical education. So just to give you a rundown of what's in this outline, the first item that we have is exploration. And under career exploration, there's a couple of different programs that we're purchasing through this grant. The first one is NEPRIS. And what we're going to do is we're going to become a white label district. And I'm not sure if anybody has ever heard of NEPRIS, but it's an online platform. And we're launching something called the Elkhart Community Connections Project. And it allows the entire community. You can have community members on this website. Every student, every teacher, every administrator is going to have access to this website. They can request sessions with community partners, and we're going to be looking at local, regional, and even national community partners. And the website is going to be branded for Elkhart Community Schools. And it's going to have the Elkhart logo with everything on it. The back end is going to be Nepris. And the front of the webpage is going to say the Elkhart Community Connections Project is a collaborative effort between Elkhart Community Schools, Elkhart Education Foundation, and many of our community partners to link Elkhart Community Schools classrooms to local and regional industry experts virtually. These classroom connections provide students with engaging experiences that show the relationship between their studies and the real world. Our goal is to connect all classrooms in Elkhart to an industry partner to add relevance and authenticity to their learning, especially in STEM education. So this is a program, and later on you can ask questions, and I can tell you a little bit more about it. I didn't bring a lot of information on it because once the website's up and everything's going, I could do a presentation at that point to show you what it is and how it works and how it connects everybody together. I have a list right underneath that where it says the white label allows us to brand our website with ECS and create an online community of business partners. The types of activities we can do is presentation sessions. You have general presentations, you have for PBLs. You have industry chats, which if you look at the last page in this document, the last page I have an example going month by month of different things that we're going to plan out this year. And the industry chat is where you have different community partners, and they're there virtually, and multiple classrooms are going to connect. And they'll be able to listen to a presentation, they can ask questions, and interact. Some of these interactions also turn into physical tours of the plant or the industry partner coming into the schools and meeting with the kids. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of, like January is Careers in Education, February is Black History Month, and CTE Career Month is CTE Month. So we're going to have industry chats based on each month, and it's going to go through the whole year. There's also a video library on Nepris, virtual events we're going to plan. We're looking at job shadows, job fairs, career fairs, mock interviews. One of the biggest obstacles I get from teachers is like, for PBLs, why didn't you have a business partner involved? Well, they couldn't get out here, or we couldn't get out there. And there's a lot of issues with just the logistics of having people come onto our campus. So a lot of these meetings could happen virtually. I'm not saying all of them. The final presentation, maybe they're going to be there in person for the final one, but throughout the year they may not be. And this is really good too, because when the teacher requests somebody for a mentorship or a PBL project, they don't have to find the mentor. They could just put it into the system, and the company will reach out, Nepris will reach out and organize that part. Yeah, and it works. I know it works because I've been using it for about 7 years. Okay, at the end, I put down in there student interest inventories and career exploration. They have that function in there as well, so kids can kind of find out what they're interested in, what they want to do. And then the last thing on that list is administrative analytics. And the system is set up where every person that connects, every student, every teacher, whether it's an administrator, it keeps all the data for us, and we can see who connected, when, who they spoke with, what was the outcome of the presentation, and it provides a great tool, especially when we're doing some reporting on connecting with the community. So this all spurred through, we're trying to become a STEM school, ETI, and one of the challenges we have is connecting with community members and all the logistics that go with it. So that is Nepris. If you have any questions about that,
who sets up the community partnerships?
Okay, right now I've been contacting community partners. We're hiring a STEM coordinator through the grant, who part of their position is going to be to organize that. We're reaching out. We have a meeting. Jason and I have a meeting with Charmaine from EEF. And we're just going to do a grassroots effort to try to get as many people on board as possible because we want that connection.
With the STEM coordinator that's being hired because of the grant,
Right.
How long is the grant? How long do you have the money?
It's
How long
a,
do
it's a
you
2-year program.
So after the 2 years, what
Yeah.
happens to the STEM coordinator?
That's, if there's not funding available, they would roll in, they may become a teacher or
Okay.
something else, yeah.
And
As a
that's-
licensed teacher, that's gonna be the.
Okay, is it, and that's, okay, so it says 2, so we would need 1 for elementary, 1 for middle school, and then the same thing goes with the computer science instructor at 2 of them?
The computer science instructor, when we put in the grant, we asked for $3.4 million, and we ended up, with just under $2.7 million for the grant. So one of the things is we were able to hire an extra teacher because we needed another, math/computer science teacher, so we hired somebody. So that's not part of the grant anymore. So that is a regular district employee. The only, federal funded position would be that, program.
STEM coordinator.
Okay, and that position also, we have a program of work we've been working on. So we'll have a strategic plan, and there will be, a marketing plan, and everything that goes along with this grant is gonna be planned out. So we have all the goals and benchmarks and everything, and we'll know what happens.
Is it a renewable grant?
No,
No,
it's,
it's one.
I think we have to spend it by the end of 2024.
Okay.
Okay, but it is a 2-year grant. So that's just one part, is the NEPRA subscription. Right below it, there's a virtual job shadow. That's also a program that, it's actually, they merged with NEPRA, so it's within the same umbrella. And there's a lot of similar content. What typically would happen, in the first year, we'll probably get the virtual job shadow for free, because we're subscribing to NEPRA's, program. The virtual job shadow will allow students to do interest surveys. They can compare colleges, put 2 different colleges, different careers. They can analyze everything and kind of figure out what they want to do. And it also has an extensive library and lessons, and also a 17-module career exploration course that has everything from financial literacy to career clusters and a whole bunch of different topics. So I don't have this information. I wish I could show you the website, what it looks like, but we're in the creation
It's hard to
phase.
picture it unless you actually
Yeah.
see the video. It's really cool.
And in 2015, we signed a contract with them, and we used, in my former district, we used NEPRIS, and we did the same thing, and we had a lot of success. We had, about 40,000 kids engaged. We had, majority of our community partners signed on. They wanted to, the community partners wanted to have that connection with the kids. A lot of times it's hard for them to get out of their business and come down and walk through the doors of the school and see the students. But through this, it made it a lot more convenient, and it grew into some physical guest speakers too, where at some point they would come in and visit the lab and see what the kids are doing, and it really had a good impact on the students. And even you guys on the board, if you have a business, you can sign on, and we cosmetology, we have business classes, we have all types of stuff that you could be a presenter. I've presented from the educational aspect. I had a business before we moved to Indiana. I presented on that, so it was good on both sides for me. So I just wish, I don't have the website up, but when I do, I could come back and I could share it with you and show you what it looks like.
I highly recommend you have a class on insurances.
Okay, yeah. We would have to talk to the business
And, how much does NEPRIS cost?
It's $116,000 per year for the whole white label. That's district wide. That's every kid, every teacher, every administrator. If we went school by school, when I was at the middle school level as an assistant principal, it was $5,000. At the high school, it was $6,000 for the entire school. So if we, after 2 years, if we decide, hey, we don't want to be a white label, I can't even say white label district, and we just want it for the high school, it would probably be about $6,000 or $7,000 for a site license. But because we're doing it for the whole school, for the whole school district, it's a lot more.
Is there any significance to the term white label?
No.
Is it, okay, all right. No, I mean, well, like, it's like a blue ribbon district. It could be a red ribbon district or something like that.
I don't know what it is. Okay, even the name
That's
NEPRIS,
marketing, huh?
I've been suggesting that they change the name NEPRIS, because when I say that, people look at me like, what is that? It's a great product. It just, maybe they need some rebranding or something.
Is that an acronym for something?
No. No. Anyway, but those are the 2 explore categories.
The other, if you look at the second page under engagement, we have a list of, and I think Ms. Mullins already saw the computer science teacher. That is now, we were approved to hire one without the grant because we have extra students coming to our school, and that's fine. So that's not going to be there. I listed a STEM coordinator, and then I also listed new technologies and labs. So when I collaborated with Jason Inman, we talked about what it would look like at the elementary school, adding computer science courses and having teachers. We have some teachers that were trained in Project Lead the Way, but we have built into the grant several $1,000, probably $200,000 worth of training, and the ability to send teachers off to be PLTW trained so they could do some of the basic courses. Okay, so that's, and the labs, Jason can answer any questions about the computer labs.
Just saying that we talked to Dr. Davis and Dr. Shepard. We're going to start with Mary Beck. We met with Tracy Kisma. She's very enthusiastic about it. And then we're going to just hit all the schools after that. It's a huge project. You all listen to it. We're very excited about it. It's going to have a real big impact.
And at ETI, we're replacing all our computer labs. We have two teachers that are teaching computer science right now, and they're using Chromebooks. And one has, actually, I think one might just be outdated laptops, the other one's Chromebook. So we're going to get brand new devices for all four teachers that are going to have computer science courses. And we're getting a brand new lab for our CAD instructor, Mr. Holtz. He teaches a Project Lead the Way, the Intro to Engineering Design. He also teaches digital electronics. And right now he has science tables and he has computers, but we don't have computer desks. So we're redoing his entire lab, which is going to cost quite a bit. And we're also buying extra furniture for the E-class units that we purchased last year. That way they have a place to use them. Okay. The other thing is, if you look, there's 2 Redbird flight simulators on there, and that is to be used with the aerospace engineering course we're looking to teach, which is a Project Lead the Way. And if you're not familiar with the pathways for the engineering, the next level programs of study, the engineering pathway, you have an option in the 3rd year. The 1st year is the Intro to Engineering Design. 2nd year is Principles of Engineering. And the 3rd year, you can either take digital electronics or aerospace engineering. And with this grant, we're going to add aerospace engineering. We're going to add the software and also the flight simulators that go along with the course. So that's something that it's not going to be this year. It's going to be probably the following year, next year. All the other stuff, there's programmable robots. We put a lot of money towards robots, and those could be anything from Vex robotics to just the simple robots that you use in the computer science courses, like the beginning courses. So we're looking to do that as well. Anybody have any questions about that? And then on the final page, I have information about PLTW curriculum, and I was pleased to find out that there were several teachers that have been trained through PLTW and they do teach certain courses, but it's not everybody, it's not every school, and it would be nice to have some consistency. That's something we're working towards. The STEM coordinator position, it's been written to provide support for every level of education. So this person is going to support K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. And then on the bottom, the experience. How are we going to know that we're successful at the end? The different objects of study that we're going to be looking at the end of the grant. The first one is NEPRIS analytics to see the impact of NEPRIS. That's going to pretty much tell us that after 2 years if we want to keep it around or not. My former district, we had people that would donate to help with the cost. Like we had companies that say, hey, we love that.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Partners, I would think after 2 years, they saw the value.
Yeah, they saw the value.
Experience, they stepped up and helped fund.
So, and that's, it just, I know a lot of people, they look at that and they may doubt whether or not it would really work, but I can tell you right now, it will work, and there is going to be an impact with it. So I'm really excited about that part of it. The virtual job shadow also has analytics, and we're going to make a decision. I'm trying to get it for free because I'm like, look, we're buying EPRIS. We're going to pay $232,000 over 2 years. At least you can do is throw in this other product, and that's That's the sales pitch I have, I'm hoping they buy that. We're gonna do at the end of the 2 years, we're gonna do an analysis of the elementary and middle school labs and the computer programs and see, what classes we've offered, what labs we've installed, what equipment we put in, and we're keeping track of everything. The state likes it when we have, data to back up our purchases. And then we also have, the industry certifications we're gonna look at. We're gonna look at, whether it's through Amazon Web Services or whether it's through, PLTW or whatever it is. We're gonna keep tally of, the students that get certification at the end. And we're also gonna look at pathway completers. For computer science, and that's the pathway we're focused on, there's 3 courses. You have to take the entry course, the principal course, and then there's a topics in computer science, and then the 3rd level is AP computer science. Another thing we're looking at is, we have one teacher that was credentialed to teach, cybersecurity. And cybersecurity can be substituted for that 3rd level computer science course. And we're looking at adding that as well, so that they have that avenue, whether it's, AP or cyber. Okay, and with cybersecurity, there's also competitive events and stuff like that, that's not gonna be this year, but we're looking to build that in the future. Okay. And then on the bottom, community partners, staff, and student survey data. Before I wrote the grant, I surveyed, staff, I surveyed some of our community partners, and I surveyed students, and that's kind of why I picked computer science to focus on, because that's been our area of weakness. And we have a few students that have even talked about, like parents that I've met with, one family in particular that wanted to take their student to another school district because we did lack a few of the courses, and it made me feel like if we don't take care of our kids, somebody else will. So, and that's something that, that I'm really serious about. And then the last thing is, the internship and job shadow data, especially for computer science. It could be for engineering or computer science, but the goal is at the end, to look at this and say, what are the experiences that kids have gained and how has it impacted them? And one thing I didn't put on here that I should have is how many students go on to careers right after high school or have done internship. Well, I did put internships, but it would be nice to do an after high school, study as well, find out how many went on to careers and how many went to college and what the outcome was. But that's it. I felt like it was easier just to give you an outline today, and if you see anything on there that you want me to go into detail about, or Jason,
We can come back and update.
We can come back.
Take a while to get this.
He knows how to buy computers. I don't know how to do that yet. I'm still figuring that out. But we can come back, and if you guys, once we get the NEPRA site up, I could come back and do a demonstration and show you some analytics and what it's doing for us. And it's gonna be about another week to 2 weeks before we actually have the site. We were working on the front end yesterday. I was working on it with the person at the company, and we're contacting employers, and that's where we're at right now. We're at the starting phase. But that STEM coordinator, once that person's hired, is gonna take on a good load of that work. Okay. That's it. So that's the 3D graph.
Does anybody from the audience have any comments or questions? Okay.
Any questions, like, anything that goes to the meeting?
Good evening, everybody. I'll give you just a moment to kind of take a look at that real quick. And I'll teach Greg while you're reading. Greg said I was going to do frustrating because he was talk long. No, we were talk long, Greg. If you'll see, this is a grant that Elkhart Community Schools did not apply for or will be managing, but we are a partner in this grant, both ECS and Elkhart Area Career Center. This is focused on advanced manufacturing, which I think we all understand and realize the importance of advanced manufacturing here in Elkhart County. If you have not heard me talk about it before, there's some issues with the pipeline of young people going into advanced manufacturing, and this grant is focused on
trying to expose and inform people about the opportunities in advanced manufacturing. And I think there's three major benefits of this, and I'll leave it here for you folks to take a look at and ask questions if you like. The first major benefit is exposure. When we talk about career technical education and sharing career pathways and experiences, many times that work is done beginning in the middle school level through the early high school, and hopefully for the Career Center, they end up in one of our programs and a pathway. I've been a proponent of that exposure needs to start at a much younger age. And this grant is looking at how do we push those exposures down to that K through 6 level. How do we develop functional lessons that go in instruction at every grade level? So similar to what we're talking about in computer science. How do we do those things to K through 12 to ensure that we introduce and expose? One of the things that I talk about all the time is your sphere of influence. Your sphere of influence is pretty small depending on who you have interactions with. And advanced manufacturing is one of those things that a lot of people don't understand. And so the first piece of this is you'll note in this grant, Horizon Educational Alliance will be the manager and the convener of this grant, working with a number of community partners. Elkhart Area Career Center will be a very prominent member of that. I look forward to working in this sphere over the next 2 years with our business partners and our sending school corporations across Elkhart County. There are a handful of positions that will come into play during this grant. The question earlier asked about positions, how are they funded? If you get into the details of this grant, there are already agreements that are in place with business partners and school corporations to look at a way to pick up the funding for these positions after this grant has ran its course. So that sustainability piece has already been focused on the new grant. I think the second piece of this grant, and this one I believe is very important, is that marketing piece. How do we sell advanced manufacturing careers to students and families? Many folks who live in our region don't understand that. When they think of Elkhart County and they think about manufacturing, they think of our RV market, the industry, the gobble you up, spit you out 20 years later without any functional skills, no upward mobility, really nothing that you can take with it. And this is that opportunity to flip that script and show people that we are talking about skilled labor. We talk about the opportunity to attain skills and credentials that will allow that upward mobility and allow folks to have a lifestyle that will afford them the things that they would like to pursue. This part right here, number 2, that marketing piece, is something that at the Career Center, we've wanted an impact in this area for a very long time. Our 2 major funding sources at the Career Center do not allow us to spend on marketing. So we've successfully secured some grants in the past, but those grants were just literally for the cycle of the grant and then it fell off. So I'm very hopeful that we'll see that piece be able to share that information. I think the last and most important piece is that I think that this is extremely vital to our community. We're in a transition here in Elkhart County. I think any of us that kind of follow the economy, we see that there's things on the horizon. And like we have suffered in 2008-9 period of time, when we took a dip, there were companies that were able to strategically change the modes of operation to be able to sustain. We have some companies that haven't done that. So there's going to be even more of an impetus to look at advanced manufacturing in areas that haven't been considered before. We have companies and organizations that are wanting to move into our community, that this is how they operate. And so I believe this is the great time for us to be paired with this, get more folks informed, get more folks involved in programming, improve the quality of advanced manufacturing instruction across schools, not just at the Career Center, but all of our high schools. Being the CTE director, I'm able to see all of the data that is reported for our region. That's every school in Elkhart County, Penn, Mishawaka, Bremen, you name it. It is shocking when we look at the volume of students that are involved in advanced manufacturing courses beyond the Career Center, and it's even more shocking when you look at the credentials that they are not earning. There are a lot of areas that we are not doing what we need to be doing in that area. We're strong in a number of other pathways across the region as far as preparing young people to go into those careers, but this is not one of those areas. And so this is the perfect time to be involved with a grant like this. I look at it as a benefit to our programming. Hopefully it will help us increase some enrollment in some programs that we just don't have the bodies in there that we need to have in there. And so I'm very hopeful that this will have that kind of outcome. Are there any other questions about this, comments?
Is there any comments or questions from the audience? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will take a 5-minute break before we start the next meeting.
Kathy nonstop going, oh, this person resigned, oh, this person really going, Kathy just wants to stop. I don't want to hear it, you know. It really starts to stress her out.
Kelly, thank you. Can everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Elkhart Promise. Every student is known by name, challenged, and supported by highly effective staff, and in partnership with the community will graduate college, career, and life ready. So we have an invitation to speak protocol. If you want to speak, you have to fill out the sheet that Dora is that it, Dora? Yep. Oh, you changed it. Fill that out, give it to Dora. You'll have 3 minutes to speak at the end of the meeting. Throughout the meeting, you will have an opportunity to speak with each agenda item. Once, you don't have to raise your hand, I'll ask like I did in the public work session. Once we move past that topic, you'll have to wait until the end of the meeting to speak. So we have a moment of pride first.
Did we want to amend the minute or the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add in the change to the freshman starting schedule for Monday, late arrival on Mondays, and to adjust the high school schedule for the 16 minutes with the early release.
Just regular dismissal.
Just regular dismissal, early release at 3:45.
Might I also ask that approval to apply to the consortium for that exemption be included in that motion as well?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
All that is adding it to the agenda.
Oh, that's what I meant, I'm sorry.
Adding to the agenda.
Normally I forget that part. So. Okay, now it's moment of pride. Beth and Tanya. Don't be shy, Beth.
Something from one of our partners to be at the end. Good evening, Tanda Hines, Summer Scissors.
You did.
I'm Tanda Hines, manager of our after-school and community programs, and I am so excited to be working with Beth, with our community partners, and really this work that happened over the summer just stemmed from our relationship and partners with after-school programming, and it just was a organically conversation in terms of, okay, so we're doing all this stuff after school, and what's, we have our individual programs that we're doing this summer. Let's collectively talk about what we could do to enhance each individual program collectively. And from that came Summer Sizzles. So we're excited. A few of our partners are here with us. So this is not one of my areas. There we go. Community partners. I think we have a few with us because of our shortness in time. Some couldn't make it, and I do have a few little words from them that I'll read in a minute. But if you're here, please stand when I say your name. Boys and Girls Club, Elkhart Community Schools, No pressure, no pressure. Elkhart Parks Department, Brandon. And then we have Elkhart Education Foundation, Ethos Innovation Center, 5-Star Lifeline Education, Rhythm to You, and You Lead. It's been an honor, a joy working with them continuously. They've we've done a great job looking at what they've done in the past, what we're going to do currently, and what we have done in the we're going to continue to do in the future. And Lifeline and Parks was able to embed our 3-week Camp Elkhart, a new name everybody has to get accustomed to this year, that started July 11th and will be ending on Friday for 3 hours a day, 8:30 to 11:30 is instruction. Also, the program started while all of our planning began late fall. Program started June 6th and will be ending on Friday. So each program is about 8 weeks. Some started as early as 8 and others started between 8 and 9 and ended as late as 4 o'clock. So kids were able to be busy all day, and even with our Camp Elkhart kids that participated in the Parks and Lifeline program, they actually, that just was embedded, Camp Elkhart, into their day, and then in the afternoon they would just resume with the program. So Beth's going to share a little bit more with you. And the other thing I wanted to point out is not only did all those partners partner with us in programming, they partnered with each other. And you'll see some of that in some of the information that Beth shared. Yes. My job, getting pretty good at that.
So, designing our program, we want to make sure we had several things besides the academics, but we had literacy, which is reading, writing, and journaling. We had math embedded into science experiments, outdoor experiments in class, the arts, music, theater, and then we had character building with our community partners, resiliency and self-care, and team building. Those were kind of our overall program. To accomplish that, through the activities, with resiliency, there was drumming, lab in a bag with Ethos, had a lot of experiments in there that dealt with STEM activities. I think one of them was they were doing a roller coaster with designing a roller coaster with a marble, looking at speed and velocity. There were 5-Star, they were interacting. Now, they were in conjunction with our community partners. So Ethos, 5-Star was working with our community partners to collaborate and provide some of these experiences. So some were interacting with animals. As you'll see, I'll show that next picture. There were sports. There was swimming, soccer, basketball. Then there was just hands-on learning. So they had different themes going throughout the week as well. Different experiments like the Mad Scientist Week, and just outdoor experiential learning. Nature walks, hikes, rowboating. But all these activities built in the team building, the character, leadership. How do I work with my team in sports? How do I communicate with my team rowboating when I'm trying to accomplish a task? Which are all pillars of our practice. Right. So our the number of students we're actually serving is over 1,200 total, the biggest summer we've ever had. That includes our kindergarten readiness students that are with us this week, so that's 340 students. Some of those kindergarten readiness students, incoming kindergarten, were signed up with the community partners as well. So they were doing, but not a lot, but some of them were. So between our community partners, we have over 800 students we're serving, and then you add in your kindergarten readiness. And that includes the students that would go to our camp Elkhart embedded in those programs. So we're very excited about that. We've never served this many students, and for the length of time, you know, keeping kids engaged all summer long.
And their field trips, they were intentional with the planning in June, so kids would miss our Camp Elkhart in July. So Lifeline and Parks worked together and actually had joint field trips, which was a very helpmate to our transportation, under the constraints that transportation was fulfilling. So they were very intentional in that planning. So I worked out really nice.
And we've worked with our food service, so every student got breakfast and lunch. So just some of the pictures. So here's Evo when they were doing the roller coaster. That's the one on the right, left, sorry. And then the other one was the Mad Scientist Week. They were making their own lava lamps. That was like with the Parks Department. And they were doing chemical reactions. So in that bottle, they made their own lava lamp to go home. 5-star, they had rock climbing, which works with, they work with kids there as far as decreasing the negative self-talk, as far as getting frustrated or you get to a point where you talk yourself, I can't do this, and you talk yourself out of it. It's more, I can do this, and how do I do this? So they work with students with that. There were fishing activities, just learning how to follow a routine, directions, what do I do, persistence. And another one they had was working with the small pony horses. That was their confidence, creates confidence. So they had to take the horses through an obstacle course, but they had to be able to communicate, learn how to communicate with the horse to make it go in different directions, or to make it stand, put its foot on, or hoof on a stand. So the kids, once they learned all that, got to take their horse through an obstacle.
Some kids had never.
I was thinking about just like, that's a horse, touch a horse.
Figure out how to like get it, so
Not only am I communicating with the horse, I've never,
Yeah.
never seen or touched one, so.
Yeah.
Where not to touch.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm just thinking about how in the very beginning, the horse probably led them more than we did. We figured out that communication. That's amazing.
So, and we've had Boys and Girls Club, they're over at Beardsley, team building activities, there I think was just a fun cooling off water balloon day. Our Elkhart Education Foundation, there they were doing, the one was to the zoo, and then they were finding creative ways to build circuits. So, there's a little light bulb in there, but fun and creative ways to build a circuit. Our Parks Department, so they were there, they were swimming, and then, that was the water balloon one, I think, maybe the activity they were doing. Yeah, that was organized, yeah. Lifeline, soccer, and then there's the music in there. Oh, I had that one in twice. Rhythm to You, and that's where they're working with resiliency, self-care, drumming, through the drumming activity.
I was actually, the Parks Department had 4 sites. They were housed in 3 of our schools, and that's Studebaker Park, but they were at Pinewood, Roosevelt, and Woodland. And each location, all of the programs. And so, I do have a few little words of, few thoughts from the partners. Elkhart Parks Program Director, Brandon, is with us. He says the Summer Parks and Recreation was able to work alongside amazing partners such as Nicole Williams, Rhythm to You, Drumming, Ethos, and 5 Star. None of this would have been possible without the support of Elkhart Community Schools. This partnership was an amazing experience and a good example of different organizations coming together to help care and provide the best experience possible for all kids who attended. Being new to the community, Brandon comes to us from South Bend, the Croc Center. It was great to be a part of a coalition like this that truly cares about the kids and is able to expose them to new experiences they are not able to get elsewhere. For the benefit of the kids, the community, I hope to see this partnership continue in the future and flourish. Lifeline Program Director David, he states, the partnership that we have formed in Elkhart has benefited greatly and has made our programming better. From having transportation to field trips, to providing fun science activities through Ethos. And not only does this partnership make programming better, but it is bringing unity in Elkhart, making sure all students have a safe, loving, and opportunity-filled summer. And Nicole from Rhythm to You says, Rhythm to You proudly provided hand drumming, movement, and experiential programming to students at Roosevelt, Woodland, Pinewood Elementary, and Studebaker through the Park Department program. Through this platform, participants experience joy, the power of rhythm, creativity, human connection, and resilience, where we discuss specifically growth mindset and the need to evolve as members of their personal and academic community. So we are excited to continue the work and appreciative of the leadership of Dr. Thalheimer, supporting and the support of the board and our school and school staff in its entirety. Thank you.
When you flash back to those, the mad scientist and the roller coaster, that was actually the lab in the bag.
That was the lab in the bag.
So that's Ethos, and like, if anybody does not know about that, you guys,
There's a bag.
Yeah, there's a bag.
Information.
Yeah. Yeah. They're amazing, like, they're little projects that you can do that tie into so many different, aspects, and it's fun to do at home, and it's just, the heart and lung, and being able to show them, my grandchildren, be able to see how it actually works and the effects of positive art. Megan just spent time talking to Brandon too about how that could tie into our STEM grant that we have, so that's pretty phenomenal. Yeah,
We're all growing together.
Yeah.
Well, I would just like to say, to you, thank you, Tonda and Beth. I know, Tonda, you've spent hundreds of hours working on this and with the partners, and I just want to let you know how much I appreciate that and the program that you guys put together. And I was able to visit several of the sites and see that just the joy and excitement with these kids this summer, and it was just awesome and inspiring, and they were so fun to watch. Watching our community partners working together for the benefit of our kids was inspiring, and I think it was just a great partnership. Everybody working together for the kids of our community. Obviously, we've all been through a lot. They've been through a lot. And to put them in an environment where they are learning and they don't know that they're learning or what they're actually learning was amazing. And and to see, watch them do the experiments was fun. And watching the kids, the interns from Ethos that were the leaders and showing the kids how to do the experiments and stuff. It was just neat to see all that engagement going on with all the partners. So thank you so much for all the hard work you guys have done on this project, because I know it was Herculean, and hopefully that, it will continue to grow and our kids will benefit from it.
Yeah. And another thing, just personally, picking up my grandchildren absolutely loved it, but if you could have been there for the way the pickup and the drop-off was, which was serious with that many kids, the young teenagers that were in charge of it did not mess around. You got to where you needed to be. They got those kids out so safely. It was on the spot, which I thought was phenomenal to have teenage children actually doing that and doing it so well. And our grandchildren loved it. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So there's some things that we learned. It wasn't flawless.
No, it wasn't. So why do you want to be flawless? You can't be flawless. You can grow.
There's room for improvement in some
areas, but we couldn't have done it. There's no IMP, so we did it together, and we're looking forward to continuing to work.
Yeah, way to go, new community partner, welcome.
Is there any comments or questions from the audience?
We just do a pause.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you, that was a
Thank
great
you, guys.
presentation. Okay, next we have the consent item. There a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have some concerns about conference leaves request. This request takes place next Monday, August 1st through the 3rd. That's 5 business days. Well, that's not only 3 business days from here. Okay, and 5 days total. We have 94 people going at a cost of $103,000. Now, at the very minimum, I would have hoped that this, I know this thing is planned way in advance for this many people, but I would think that we should have known this, 3 or 4 board meetings ago. Things like this, cause, concern here that you're bringing to the board a $103,000 request, even though it's probably paid for some grant, by a grant out there, which is nice, but still, this is waiting to the last minute to get something approved. We should not be doing that. Also, the synopsis that I see in front of me right here, I would also like to see, and it can be done by email, the full range of, you could call it the syllabus or whatever, the program that's going to be used and taught at that place, over in Lincolnshire. That's my comment. I'm not happy with it.
Is there any other discussion?
Our donations that we have one for $2,000 to be given to the boys soccer program from Consolidated Meadows. And we have another that is a full-size violin with no serial number. It is a market value of $200 that's donated from John and Dee Smith. There is also $4,529 that are given to the Elkhart High School football program from the Community Foundation. And our last is $500 from Green Stream Company donated to our boys soccer program. So thank you to our community again.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yay, nay.
Motion passes. Is there any comment or question from the audience? Okay. New business, Deb Thorne.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. We have 2 policies which we're bringing forward tonight for initial consideration. The first is Board Policy 2266, which is our policy that really addresses Title IX. This policy has been in place for some time. The policy, as the present stands, establishes procedures used by the district when a discrimination complaint has been filed that alleges harassment and or discrimination in education programs or activities that is based upon sex specifically. The proposed revisions clarify the scope of the district's prohibition against harassment and discrimination, so that individuals understand that prohibition covers acts occurring on school grounds, at school activities, on school buses, and activities taking place before and after school. The revisions clearly indicate the administrators who bear the responsibility for serving in the role of Title IX compliance officers, which would be the position I currently hold, as well as our assistant superintendent for exceptional awareness, and also provides clear prohibition against retaliation for individuals who might seek redress under the policy. It also further defines some of the terms under the policy as well as procedures that are to be followed when investigating complaints.
As you might recall, a draft of this policy was shared with you in a prior board packet, prior placement on this agenda. I did have a brief conversation with Ms. Bondevellen right before the executive session this evening, and she is suggesting that we delete the last sentence from section 6 of the policy, which is the retaliation language. Quite honestly, as she pointed out, I think there's some confusion with that language, and I think the policy will actually be improved with the deletion of that sentence. Again, this is only brought to you this evening for initial consideration. Look forward to any questions or comments you might have related to the policy as presented this evening. Hearing none.
Hang on.
Yes.
This policy was adopted January 12th, 2021.
Yes.
What was the basis for this revision?
The base of the revision was primarily to do some tightening up, some cleaning up of the language of the policy. The other thing that we're in the process of doing is we have an obligation under federal law to make sure that we're training all employees on the Title IX policy and the expectations of the policy, and there were some things that we thought needed to be tightened up before we engaged in that training. We actually have initiated that training already. Did that a couple of weeks ago with our coaches, and we'll actually be doing that again later this week. I think actually Thursday night with our coaches in the process of doing that. And I'm working with a firm who will be assisting us in that training process to make sure everybody's on board. I would also note that it's likely that we'll have to make additional changes to this policy over the next couple of years as the administration, as has really been the practice of the last three administrations, continually make changes to the Title IX regulations. Those proposed regulations were released about a week and a half ago, and so we'll be monitoring those regulations to determine what, if any, changes need to be made after changes were made during the last administration to Title IX regulations.
And then on number 6, you had...
I would just strike the last sentence. Any person may report suspected retaliation to the appropriate coordinator for a protected class.
That was mine.
Yeah, and really the question was, we don't have a coordinator for each protected class. It is just an obligation on the part of both Tony and myself to serve as the coordinator for Title IX and serve as the point persons for that process. We'll be doing some actual training of all of the administrators who play a role in the Title IX process this summer.
Okay.
Again, this is only brought for initial consideration tonight. So if you have other suggested revisions, be happy to hear from you over the next week and a half. Next, our proposed revisions to Board Policy 3421.04A. This policy covers benefits that are provided to administrators, and actually benefits that are very similar to benefits, at least in terms of what we're talking about tonight, under our VIVA plan, which is a retirement benefit that exists for teachers and administrators that provides an opportunity to compete for it. There's a contribution under both the administrator compensation plan as well as the teacher contract for ongoing contributions to an individual employee's VIVA plan. There have been some revisions that have been approved in the VIVA plan through board resolutions, and that really has happened during the term of this current board and prior boards, and all of those revisions were not incorporated at that point in time into the policy. Those proposed revisions were outlined to board members, and copies of those prior resolutions were presented to prior placements on the agenda this evening. I want to make it clear, this is not adding a new benefit for administrators or teachers. We'll be addressing that issue with the teachers during negotiations coming up here. It is really making sure that the policy clearly matches what has happened in the prior years under those resolutions, so that we don't place a situation where any employee who might be entitled to benefits under the VIVA plan has to look through multiple board resolutions to understand what the plan itself entails. So that was our purpose of bringing it all together in the policy and doing some cleanup, which quite honestly should have been done all along as one of the process. I apologize for that.
We will be discussing those changes as well with the Teachers Association, during our upcoming negotiations to make sure that, both this policy, that the revisions that were provided by the resolutions are also incorporated in the teacher contract language. Again, this is being brought to you this evening really for initial consideration. Have an answer to the question.
And just for those people who may be online or in here that don't know what VIVA is, can you
VIVA is, let me see if I can do this right. It is a voluntary employee benefit association. It is a federal statute that authorizes contributions by an employer to cover medical expenses post-separation. In other words, it is a retirement benefit for employees, and there are various provisions within different classifications within the plan. The original VIVA plan was developed in 2006. At that point in time, that board actually did a bond issue to eliminate what had been an unfunded obligation of the school district, and dealt with a promise that was put in place long before 2006 that provided medical benefits, medical coverage to employees post-separation, post-retirement. And so the VIVA plan is one component of what happened back in 2006. But it provides for teachers and for administrators and for executive assistants an amount of money that would be available to them post-separation used to cover medical expenses.
Thank you.
Just quick clarification on the eligibility requirements. This is, for an administrator who's age 55 or 49.
That relates back to one of those resolutions that was put in place at that point in time to cover a specific group of employees.
Okay.
It is a rather weird phrase.
It is.
Absolutely.
And then, just for clarification, the 10 years is not 10 years as administrator, but 10 years as a employee of Elkhart Community Schools?
It is, again, this is one of those parts and pieces. It is 10 years of recognized experience. So in other words, a teacher or an administrator who comes to Elkhart Community Schools from another school district would get consideration for those years of service. For example, for our teachers, it is based upon where you're placed on the salary schedule.
Okay.
So in other words, if you've been placed on the salary schedule, it's a way to recognize teachers and administrators who might come to Elkhart from another school district and still be able to access that retirement benefit when they leave it.
So those are the people who are served?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
How big is that group?
Sorry, I guess the question is, which group are you talking about specifically?
What is that like, VIVA?
The VIVA group would be 60-some administrators, and how many teachers do we have right now, Sarah? 800-some teachers? And then, executives. So, just short of 900 employees. Again, bring this back for initial consideration. If there are questions or thoughts that you have related to this policy, happy to discuss those with you.
Does the board have any questions? Does the audience have any questions or comments? Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Dr. Shepherd?
On behalf of the administration, I am pleased to bring to you a new course, actually the one that Mr. Stover talked about during the work session, and that is Topics in Computer Science. This course is designed for students to investigate in emerging disciplines within the field of computer science. There are a lot of interesting topics that can be covered. This course reminds me of really graduate level courses where in any specific discipline, current topics are addressed, talked about, explored, and this is going to be true in computer science. The different topics that are listed on the sheet here are some of the many, many topics that could be explored throughout this course. This course is in the computer science and IT pathways. It is the Concentrator A course, or in other words, the second course in the 3-course series. And so we are really pleased to let you know that they have worked this course out and they are ready to offer that course to our students. It should be an exciting journey.
Does anybody have any questions from the board? The audience, any questions or comments?
This seems a little more comprehensive than when, I was in high school and took code, and the test was, you had to code, write the stick figure, and then you got extra credits if you make the stick figure wave. So, I think we probably come.
Really basic.
Yeah, we probably come a long way.
You were so young. When I was in high school, there were no computers.
Thank you, Dr. Circus.
I now move, Kevin, hold on. Under new business, I move that we approve the adjusted bell schedules for the freshman division at Elkhart High School and give Dr. Tallheimer permission to, speak to the people at CCISD to get approval for this.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all.
I appreciate that extra time to work my way.
Good to see you without a cane, Mr. Scott.
Hey, so this evening, the business office would like to report our cash balance at the end of June. Pardon me. It's $46,159,970.02. As you see in the detail for education fund and operations, they're performing as expected, tracking much like last year. At the back of the financial report of ESSER pages, our spending is starting to pick up. Next month, you'll see significant construction dollars as work, if you've had a chance to go over and look at daily. They are just flying along. I was over there today. There's a tremendous number of workers trying to wrap up and be ready for the start school. So that's going well. And then the last piece at the back of the financial report is the budget timeline that you get from me each year. Once again, we'll be having discussion about what the budgets look like in late September, and then we'll have the hearing at the first meeting in October that's required by law, and then approval at the second October. So much like prior year timelines. Any questions related to that?
I'd just like to make a quick comment on the Easter Fund, just so the community and people know kind of what's going on. You can find the information for them on the district website. But I just wanted to let everybody know the district has made significant investments in instructional programs and professional development and support services for math, science, reading, phonics, student support, EL training, professional learning communities, pencil mentoring and support, project-based learning, our summer programs that you heard about. So there's a lot of time, effort, and funding that's going into make a lot of improvements to add curriculum, and we're doing that with ESSER funds. So I think it's important for everybody to understand that and can appreciate that, because the amount that we've budgeted for and where we're at, we're just under about halfway of what we budgeted in those two areas for student support and instruction. And so we've been able to do a lot of things with that and helping our kids rebuilding foundations and putting them on a pathway to be successful. So I just wanted to highlight that area because there have been significant investments made in there to the tune of $12 million for those funds. So
I do have one question. Now, you mentioned the work going on at Mary Daly. The head secretary at Westside wants to know if the air conditioning is fixed on August 1st when she goes to work. Do we know the answer to that? Because it's going to come up when I go see her in a little bit.
I bet so. So, part of the building has been complete. Part of the building will have to wait till next summer, in terms of HVAC work. The work that we're using ESSER dollars for has to be about building environment. And so we're working on end of the life cycle replacements for the air conditioning, heat, those kind of things in the building.
the office complete at least?
The short answer is yes.
Thank you, that's all I need to know.
Thank you. Tony and I did a walkthrough today, it was very interesting. We started at daylight, lots of activity. West Side is right at the end of their work for this summer, so. They were able to start up the chiller last Thursday, and then they've been running it to make sure that we have air conditioning. It was cool in the building when we were walking through, so.
Fire, purple hand.
Any other questions before we charge ahead to the last item?
Does the audience have any questions or comments?
Interns, June, so we are 6 months halfway into the year. Our experience in June was our first negative month. However, on a year-to-date basis, we're still significantly ahead. I think I've mentioned in the past, we track folks when they accumulate $50,000 in claims in the year. Through 6 months, we've got 17 people we're tracking. That's actually less than the last 2 years. We haven't had anybody hit the stop loss yet. Our number one person was from claims from September of 21 that UMR, our former carrier, just finally released the process. So that's where we're at. We're still on track for a good year.
Yeah, I do see that does account for some of that, but you're right, it was, compared to current month, the prior year, it was significantly larger. What is our stop loss threshold?
275,000.
And we don't have any, I see that there's nothing above that yet.
No, we will have 2 to 3 a year.
Right? Is there any concern, that, any of these large claims would be ongoing over the 50,000, but yet still under the 250,000 threshold?
We haven't had an insurance committee meeting since school ended, so that'll be a good discussion. When we come back.
Okay.
To school. Thank you.
Is there any questions or comments from the audience? Thank you, Tim. So, do we have any? Okay, Dr. Coleman, do you have anything?
Would like to give a hat tip to the Exceptional Learners Department for the Back to School University that's happening this week. I stopped over there and heard some of the keynote speaker this morning, and it was a very, very powerful, engaging presentation. The special ed teachers and staff in attendance were really enjoying that and getting some good perspective on meeting the needs of all students. So that is a week-long opportunity that the Exceptional Learners Department is doing to provide some basic training and some compliance things that they try to accomplish through the year but have a difficult time doing because of substitutes and pulling those teachers from the classroom, which then impacts student services as outlined in their IEPs. So this is a model that they've moved to try to get a lot of that accomplished during the summer. And by attendance and what I saw today, that was going very well. For the board itself, I had Del Jarman from School IQ contact me, and I had talked with Daisy a little bit about this. They would like to be able to put together 2 days, one where they would come to have a conversation with the board in a work session about the priorities and things that you're sending him in answer to the questions that he asked. And then to talk a little bit about the makeup of that key committee and those kind of things, and just have a work session with you all. And then the second day, would like to just have an opportunity to speak to administrators in the district. So we would probably arrange a virtual meeting for them to be able to get together with principals and talk about the process and what's going to happen and unfold over the coming months as the process carries out. And then have the public meeting, the kind of kickoff town hall public meeting, explaining the process and what's going to happen. Stacey and I did have a conversation about, well, is that enough time of like, if there are things that you discuss at the work session to turn around and then make part of that public meeting. And they were viewing the public meeting as just more of an informational session to lay out how the overall process works. And then if there are things that you would want to have indicated in there or worked into that, they would do that. But if there are concerns about overall about how that string would work, I would just need to know that to be able to carry those conversations back or connect Daisy with Dell to have that conversation about that. They, were throwing out that as of right now, their schedules would be open, and they want to do this in September. Their schedules are open the 13th and 14th of
Wait,
September.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So why did they want our input before having the public meeting and said that information is not connected?
What, again, they were viewing the public meeting as just presenting the overall process and what they were going to do. If you want a different purpose for that meeting, then we would need to have that conversation with them about what that looks like. But I went back to them and said, how much of what you discussed in that first session is integrated into that? And they said what they're doing in that first meeting is explaining the process overall. Just a more kind of elaborate version of what they shared in the presentation for the RFP. So it's to say to the community, we're engaging in this process. Board members could speak and say, this is what we're seeking to do. Explain their process, explain the community engagement, explain the committee. And then at that point, if perhaps you were wanting to ask for volunteers or people to be engaged on that committee, that would be asked at that point, and then go forward. And it would become more detailed after that. But the initial meeting of laying it out for the public, promoting it, working to have the media know, all those things would be how they would envision that first public session going. So they are available to back up against either one of our September board meetings with that second day. So if you want to look at calendars or stay after and have a conversation with me, we can do that. But they could be available the 13th and the 27th to be the work session that we have with this board meeting in conjunction with the board meeting, and then we could do the public pieces on the 14th and the 28th. And we've worked in the principal meeting during the day on the 14th or the 28th. But they do have that availability to coincide with how you're already meeting. And then the other thing I would say is that you've probably received the notifications from ISBA/IAPSS about the fall conference on October 3rd and 4th. So Dora would need to be knowing who wants to be attending that fall conference, and we can work on getting registration and rooms and all of that. So I just wanted to get that on your radar so that we could get those scheduled as well. So that is all I had.
I don't know if everybody sent them your top 5. If you haven't, please do that as soon as you can. Does the board have anything? Meeting adjourned.